Hello everybody, my name is Dan Shelton. I'm head of transformation strategy for the Americas with Zscaler, and welcome to the Modern Workplace Enablement video series. Today I'm going to talk about the process that organizations need to implement to be able to deliver these types of strategies. Brandon touched on the people, Lisa's touching on the technology as part of the video series, but the process is near and dear to me because I had to actually deliver this as a customer for an organization. Prior to joining Zscaler, I was a senior director for infrastructure at a company called Kelly Services, where we had 900 offices in 27 countries around the world. We had a program called Kelly Anywhere that was meant to be able to enable a modern workforce. And really, the program had a couple key goals. One was to have a digital branch strategy, meaning all of these capabilities that were delivered from these brick and mortar locations were really being digitized. And when I say that, they're happening on the move. They're happening at the customer locations, at home. They didn't need to be in the office. And once the organization was able to really start kind of moving that and changing the way their processes were delivered and services delivered to their customers, then they were able to significantly change what that branch footprint looked like. But there were a couple parts of that process that were very critical for the IT organization to deliver to the business so they could have confidence that it could work. And the very first one was around the consistent user experience. So that consistent user experience, that really meant it's always the same regardless if users are on or off the network. And for us, what we ended up learning really quickly was we needed to remove the premise altogether of on or off the network. We needed to help educate people that there is no more on the network or off the network, because what we tried to do prior was educate people on these are your apps that are in cloud. For these applications, you no longer have to be connected to the internal network. That worked for a short period of time. It also worked when we started whitelisting apps and allowing split tunneling configurations in our VPN client. But then what ended up happening was so many more apps started moving to SaaS platforms, and users always made the wrong decision on the most optimal path to their resource. So we needed to use technology to do that. So we use Zscaler Internet Access, we use Zscaler Private Access to really take that decision point away, but make the user experience the same. Meaning that they open their laptop, they authenticate, they go to what applications that they need, full stop. There's no other conversation. And that was something that was very difficult to prove with the business, because the business was worried about productivity. They were worried about productivity in terms of not just what are our users doing, but are our users going to be hindered by this experience because they're not on the internal private network that we spent millions of dollars funding every year. So we needed to not only prove that hey, this can work, and confidently stand up and say it, but part of that process was to also make sure that there were no gaps from a security perspective. We needed to confidently tell the business that we were also securing all of these traffic flows. And really what we did there is we used this phrase that we engineered everything to the lowest common denominator from a security perspective. And that was essentially just around assuming all of your users are connected to the internet. So when you have that assumption and you have all of the security capabilities in place to see whether they're on the network or off the network, it didn't matter. We have that data. We see what they're doing. We're able to prove that those security policies are enforced. And most importantly, we're able to prove where is our data going? What are people doing? It was wonderful from a productivity perspective to see more hits to Exchange, OneDrive, and SharePoint than to anything else coming for traffic going to the internet. So that was the perspective, and part of that process, which then when we were able to say, hey, great, the user experience is the same, everything is secure, the business still wanted to prove it from a user experience perspective, and they wanted metrics. So we had to come to the table with actionable data. And that was actually something that, the pandemic hits, then the business they shifted. They didn't even skip a beat because they were already in that model of reducing the branch footprint, of using this technology to enforce this like modern workplace that really was just a location connected to the internet. And then take it one step further and say when users are at that location or when users are at their house, the CIO was very curious in terms of making sure that the experience is the same, and more importantly, how to quantify it and share those statistics with the business. So then you step in, the digital experience component of the Zscaler platform became very valuable as well. And so this is something that organizations need to plan for in terms of that process that they're going to follow, because you have to be able to confidently stand up in front of the business and say the user experience is going to be the same, it's going to be secure, and most importantly, we can prove it. So I encourage you guys again to watch the other parts of the series with Brandon on the people and Lisa on the technology, and reach out to your account teams if you have any questions.